I'm more curious about finding the right answer than feeling that I have to have the right answer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is LeAnne Andersen. She is Chair of Human Resources People Services for Mayo Clinic. In that role, she is a strategic HR leader, trusted advisor, and vital participant in business planning and executing best practices. Mayo Clinic inspires hope and promotes health through integrated clinical practice, education, and research. With a vision of transforming medicine to connect and cure as the global authority in the care of serious or complex disease, it is renowned for putting the needs of the patient first. Mayo operates a worldwide network of hospital systems with destination medical centers in Rochester, Minnesota, Scottsdale and Phoenix, Arizona, and Jacksonville, Florida. Mayo Clinic employs 63,000 people, including more than 4,500 physicians and scientists and 58,400 administrative and allied health staff. Before joining Mayo, LeAnne held various leadership roles at Kaiser Permanente, Best Buy, and Target, with emphasis on domestic and global business transformation, human resources, supply chain optimization, process improvement, and a commitment to external partnerships. LeAnne also has extensive nonprofit experience serving on the board of Make-A-Wish and Christian Heritage. And I am delighted that I have known her for many, many years. So LeAnne, welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to be with you today.
So tell us a little bit more about your role at Mayo. With 63,000 employees, tell me what your role encompasses.
You know, I think the best way to say it is I help take care of the people that take care of others that are at their most critical need and helping change the world when we think about science and healthcare and the way that we provide hope to individuals at their most critical needs and their families as well. So I run a suite of services. In many ways, the leaders of Mayo Clinic are my clients. I manage everything from payroll to global mobility to talent acquisition, and that workforce that you talked about, the employees, the physicians, and our residents, they interact with me and my team every single day to help them manage great big full lives, as well as take care of their responsibilities as employees and managers.
So when I think about Mayo, I think that idea of providing hope when someone has a really serious illness is exactly what I think of when I think of Mayo. And it's sort of like you're providing hope to the people that are providing hope. And I just think that is so cool. What is it that you love most about the role you're in?
Exactly what you just said. So I think if I look back at my career, and we can talk more about that, along my journey, I became real clear. The purpose that I find and kind of expound to try to create every day is creating moments that help take care of people, that let them play it forward. And I've been on this journey for a while and getting more and more crystal clear on what that looks like. And in that career path, you kind of just find a roadmap that doors open up. And when you understand what you want to do with your life, you find yourself in unique and fabulous positions to do it. And so I actually just passed my 1-year anniversary at Mayo Clinic, but I've had this opportunity and been kind of focused on it for the last 10 to 15 years. And in doing so, you find every day, every interaction, whether it's personally or professionally, I have a chance to play forward and live that purpose.
And isn't it great when you have purpose in what you do? And it's tied to the organizational mission. I think that's really cool. But is there any, I want to get to your career path in a minute, but is there
Yeah.
any aspect of the job that you're in now that you don't like? And if so, how do you deal with that?
There are, I jokingly sometimes refer to things as cheers and chores. There's a lot that I enjoy, but there are absolutely some chores that go along with it. One thing that I'll tell you that sometimes will frustrate me is I'm wired in a way, and my experience brings insight and curiosity of how things work. And there's certain times where I feel like I can see something coming in the future that's a risk or a concern to delivering excellent service. And I will struggle with how do I articulate that and what does that look like? And are others ready to hear it? And so, probably the biggest thing that sometimes gets in my way is impatience. And a lot of time that has to do with kind of strategic planning and road mapping. So I love the strategic planning. I love the road mapping that goes along with it. But at times it is gaining, and the amount of effort and energy it takes to gain alignment to that direction. Sometimes that impatience can make me feel like it's a waste of time.
But it comes from wisdom that is gained through years and years of experience.
You are absolutely correct.
And I think it is really, really cool that you're able to use those years and years of experience now. And when I knew you at Best Buy, when we were working together, that's what you were focused on, was that road mapping that you were talking about, and really getting all of the ducks in a row around a huge transformation. How does your current role compare similarly, or how does it differ from that?
Well, let's start with the similarities. So the first thing is, when I look back at my career, there is absolutely an element of similarity in some of the aspects, and it's that word transformation. I really find and look for ways and opportunities to take something that's good and make it even better. And in doing that, you have the opportunity to change a business. I really tend to focus on how do you make things more efficient and affordable? How do you make a bigger impact? And how do you drive value for the organization? So that's kind of the business aspect that goes along with it. The similarity that's also there is the experience that you provide to individuals during it. How do you create an opportunity for them to be at their best? And I love that kind of that head and that heart disposition of the roles in that I have found myself in. And that is absolutely similar in what I'm doing today at Mayo Clinic compared to what I did at Best Buy and other parts of my career as well. I think the one thing, and it ties back to your comment about the experience that you bring, and this is one thing that I've seen and I have to always be aware of, and I actually love it because it provides a unique dynamic that it doesn't feel like I'm just kind of rinsing and repeating each different career step in my professional growth. It is taking into consideration the cultural differences of each of those organizations. So you think about Best Buy, I mean, large retailer, quarterly driven, for-profit organization. At the time, it was worldwide. And then you take Kaiser Permanente, all of a sudden you have a nonprofit, completely different industry, moving from retail to healthcare, large organization, a couple 100,000 employees, and very regionally driven. So Kaiser very focused on community health and what does that look like? And then the shift to Mayo, the culture and context is again different. It's really focused on patients. It has the 3 different shields that come together where you have patient, research, and education working collaboratively together on how they actually meet the needs of the patients, and back into a different geographical footprint as well. So each company has provided me the opportunity to use a lot of the skill and the experience that I've created. But it's important for me always as a leader to remember the context is very different. Even as you think about a timeline of moving from doing similar work 10 years ago to today, it's different post-pandemic, it's different with a remote workforce. You have the great resignation happening right now. So what you do has to be relevant in the context of what's happening around you. So the experience, I think sometimes I see leaders say, I've done it once before, I can do it again in my next job. And it's just kind of a replay. And I think for me, what's fascinating, because I just enjoy inventing and creating is there's always a newness that goes along with it as well. So to your questions, absolutely continue to be focused on transformation in my current role, like Best Buy, but it's in a completely different culture and a different context than I had at Best Buy.
So the common denominator in all of these roles is transformation and road mapping that for the benefit of the employees. I get that. And the thing that's been different in those roles is the context.
You got it.
And
Absolutely.
the culture. So as you've thought about those, you've experienced a wide range of these cultures. And I wonder if that has informed your own understanding of yourself and what cultures work best for you, or what kinds of work environments work best for you.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I think there's moments, and I'll tell you one thing that's interesting about healthcare. So kind of maybe a fun story is, when you're back in high school, all those ages ago and stuff like that, you would take vocational assessments. And the vocational assessment, even back then, was always, I should be a nurse. I should do something around care. Here's the hard part. I have a phobia about blood. And I'm like, that is not my career path. That is not where I'm going to go. But it's interesting to kind of reflect back and say, well, that wasn't my career destination. I truly respect individuals that do that work, but there was a caring spirit that went along with it. Switching from retail to healthcare, it wasn't a change I probably sought out. I didn't wake up and say, you know what, I want to go into healthcare. But at the time I made that change, I knew I was at a place within my own personal life that I was interested in doing something different. And my mom was also battling cancer, had been battling cancer, and eventually lost her battle. But she's being treated at MD Andersen. And I remember one day she'd been through a rough series of treatment, et cetera. And I was there with my family, and I dozed off on a couch while she was in getting treated at one point in time. And one of the assistants that was there, not a healthcare provider itself, but somebody that was a support staff, actually brought me a warm blanket and covered me up and kind of jolted me awake a little bit. And in that moment, it kind of hit me. And remember, I, at that time, had spent, 10 to 15 years thinking about culture and context and fit and what was right for me. And it was just such a pivotal moment that they had 1 minute, 1 minute to show kind of that kind gesture. And I had, through my MBA and different activities, become more and more clear that there's something magic about moments for me. And so thinking about the shift from Best Buy to Kaiser Permanente, Kaiser called, they said, hey, we're interested. I kind of chuckled and said, well, I'll just go see what they have to say. But it was the personal experience as well as the professional opportunity that said it was time for a change. And there's no regrets at all in making that change, because it continued to help me fulfill kind of the full life of everything that I was experiencing and learning and doing, and having a chance to kind of create those moments. So I think, Sarah, as you think about how you choose the highlights and how you move through your career, for me, even at this stage of my career, I continue to get clearer and clearer on purpose. And it plays a large part in what gets me up and keeps me going back into work, even when there are things that can be tough and frustrating and difficult. You go back to that sense of the commitment and the choice that you made.
But that's a great story. And I love the fact that you're highlighting that getting clear about purpose is an ongoing process. It's not generally one and done. How would you describe, you've talked about the fact that one of the elements in your career path has been a focus on transformation and loving that and loving the mapping out of the journey and the like. But how would you describe your interests and your strengths?
I think part of it is, as leaders, we're all challenged to get clear on what they are and know that they shift and they evolve. My probably strengths, first, is a curiosity. I tend to be interested in how things work. And for me, that's played strongly in transformation, plays strongly in my role. How does that process work? How does it play out? What are we actually trying to accomplish with it? And then the other thing that curiosity brings for me is I'm more curious about finding the right answer than feeling that I have to have the right answer. That can seem a little unorthodox, but I think sometimes leaders jump in and say that I've got to know the answer. To me, I am that curiosity that plays through. It's a quest. It's a conscious adventure of how do you look at that. The other thing that I would tell you is probably a strength, and this one I did not start with. This one absolutely I needed to evolve, was being willing to challenge my own mindset. You can become, and I did this recently with a leader I was working with where they said, this is working great. And I said, have you asked somebody that's actually receiving service from that? And they stopped at the moment and they're like, no, but everything I'm looking at says it should be working right. And I said, let's just go ask. Let's just go find. And I think that's an example of the curiosity and willing to actually even stop your own mindset or your own thoughts, probably a better way to say it, and say, am I sure I'm right? I don't know. And I think in that, the authenticity to kind of question yourself and being okay with it. I once did an assessment and they joked with me and said there's a courageous authenticity. If I'm not sure about something, I'm pretty comfortable asking. And that did not start. It kind of came with confidence, career growth, and testing it, trying it once and twice, and realizing that I wasn't judged for asking the question. I was actually recognized in many cases for asking the question and saying, is there a different way to think about it? So I think the curiosity, the willingness to kind of question your own mindset. And then the last one I would throw out there that's kind of a new evolving term, but I think is a strength I possess, is creating kind of psychological safety. And never probably knew what it was called until some of the more recent information is actually being created about the term psychological safety, but making it okay for people to be vulnerable, share what they're thinking about, where they need help, and also being able to do and demonstrate that myself. When you do that, I think it brings the better ideas forward. It welcomes people. It creates a tone of authenticity as well as inclusiveness, which I think leads to better results.
Curiosity, challenging your own mindset, and creating psychological safety. And I love the catchphrase, finding the right answer as opposed to having the right answer. That's an incredibly powering point of view. And it would shift your perspective and everything that you look at.
I had a boss that said that to me many times along my growth journey. Usually when I was at my most frustrated moments and I'd go in and I would vent and they'd look at me and say, what if you're not right? And I'm like, oh, dang it. Let me go figure it out. So they tapped into that early with me. And it's interesting how I've seen it play with others as well.
Well, it's a very empowering way to look at it. And it certainly creates a perspective of upfront collaboration.
Absolutely.
When you go in with that mindset, that's a keeper there. So LeAnne, what obstacles to achieving your career goals were most obvious to you in your career? And what have you done about that? How have you navigated that?
I think as a woman leader, we all kind of have to battle at a point in time in our career how to have it all, the life, the family, the balance. And so I will tell you, balance is probably one thing that I have found challenging. A little bit of it's how I'm wired. My mind tends to constantly run, and I'm constantly processing things both personally and professionally, and wondering how to make it all fit together. And along the way, there was times where I was critical of myself. Am I spending enough time with my family? Am I getting enough balance? Am I where I need to be? Is my career moving the pace I want it to move? And that can take a toll. It can add stress and frustration, and maybe at times didn't always leave me being my best. And along the way, I needed to get comfortable with, this is my life. It all fits together. It's what I say it is. The balance is how it works, and I can make the decisions. But give up some of the feeling of it has to be so masterfully figured out and refined. It is just kind of what it is. You tweak it. If you don't like it, you can adjust it a little bit. And there's this constant tinkering to find the right balance. And for me, it probably ties back to that quest and that curiosity. What's it going to feel like if I get up an hour earlier and choose to do this and to test and try some things? We learned early on in my life, I'm wired. I like to get stuff done. And Saturday mornings, my family did not like that about me. And so we figured out I can get up and get all my to-dos done or whatever by 10 a.m. And I was a much better mom and family member. And so I think you just need to tinker and find and be okay finding your balance that works for your personal situation.
That's another great story. So I probably know the answer to this, but just for clarity, I'm going to ask it anyway. What advice would you give your 30-year-old self now, knowing what you know now, with the wisdom of 2020 hindsight?
I probably look at myself there, smile, say, you're going to be okay, and just relax and have fun. I think we early on get so wound up on feeling like we need to have the answers. And I think it probably plays through all of the comments I had. It's about finding them, enjoy the journey. And so, just to kind of synthesize it, relax, have fun, and enjoy the journey. It's going to be okay. That would probably be the advice I'd give my younger self.
And would you give that same advice to another young career professional right now?
I do, and I have. Occasionally they look at me like, really? And I, tend to say, trust me, it's going to be okay. And it's interesting how we get asked for that advice. And sometimes it's on the personal side. Sometimes it's on the professional side. Sometimes it's people trying to balance that. But I truly feel if you make that commitment to figuring it out and not getting so wrapped up along the journey, everything will be fine.
So here's the things that I'm going to take away from this conversation. One is there cheers and chores, and you sort of have to accept the chores and enjoy the cheers. The second is having a perspective of finding the right answer as opposed to having the right answer is a much better frame of reference for doing anything, frankly. And the third and the final one is if we relax and enjoy the journey, it's probably all going to work out okay. Did I get that right?
I think you just described me in a nutshell, or at least who I am today.
There we go. LeAnne, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks, Sarah. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.